Well, welcome back to the cabin. So finally getting this cellar done. Finally got the cellar done, as much as I'm going to do it at this point at least. This is the, I call it the back section, because when I come down the stairs, this is the furthest section into the cabin. But it's actually, or would I be, I'm right under the kitchen table, basically right here. So this is the, what would that make it, the southeast corner, southwest corner. That's, if you call the cabin the field, the meadow from the front porch, if you call that looking south, then basically we're in the southeast corner of the cabin. So I have, well, you'll see me, or you saw me put this fan, this vent going out this side here, which is the side that the bedroom's going to be on eventually. But the bedroom doesn't start till about there and over. So there was a wall section that was free on the outside right here to put this vent out. So 7 degrees, I think, probably because I've got the 2 doors open. But that section there has been at 6 degrees, really steadily at 6 degrees. That's why I'm questioning the 7 right now. Yeah, that's up to 8 just for me handling it. I think probably they're going to settle in at about 5 degrees once it gets really cold. 5 degrees Celsius, which is, what, 40? Yeah, 40 and a half, 41 Fahrenheit. So that's pretty good temperature for storing root vegetables. Last year, because I had the vent coming in the other section there, I had it coming in under the floor from the meadow, and I had that pipe open still. A lot of cold air was still getting into the cabin. And the why else? Because the window I had cracked a lot of the time, so it was like 1 degree Celsius, like 33, 34 Fahrenheit in here all last winter. The potatoes I had stored in that section there, just how did I have those? Just on the ground. Anyway, they were good for planting by the following May. Like, they were still in good shape. So I'm hoping, like I said, it gets a little bit cooler in here. Now this fan, depends how often I run that too. This fan, it's pushing air that way. This room is 5 feet roughly by 10 feet roughly. Let's call it 9 feet minus the wall thicknesses. So 9 feet by 5 feet, or 4.5 feet, 53 inches. Yeah. So this is fully enclosed. I don't have a door where you're standing right now, because I don't need a door on it right now, so I'm going to leave it like that. I have a vent here between the 2 lights, so that when this air is being blown out this way, then the air can come in, about an equal amount of air can come in that way, and in a vent in that future door. And why is that relevant? Well, I need airflow everywhere in all of these sections to prevent mold. But this is the section I'm talking about either making one of 2 things or probably both things, and that is a cheese cave for aging the cheese that my wife makes, and then also maybe that section, I don't know, figure out which section, but maybe half of it is going to be a meat curing section, so that I could take my venison, instead of having to cut it up, dehydrate it, or smoke it, jerky it, and freeze it, the various methods, then I can kind of just cure it whole, which I've always wanted to do. So those would hang like right there maybe. And pig, I'd like to do some prosciutto or full hams cured. Anyway, so that's this section, 5 feet, 4.5 feet by 9 feet. I have a plug in that wall over there, like an outlet, so that if I wanted to run either a fan or a heater or dehydrator, maybe the freeze dryer, bunch of options for plugging something in here, or just maybe a humidifier or something to get the cheese fridge to be at an exact temperature. So maybe even a fridge. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, pretty versatile section. So right now what I've got is just some pails of carrots on the floor here. And that's what I'll just continue to do for this year, so that I'm not congesting that area. So that section there, you saw me storing the potatoes. Still lots of potatoes left. I think they're going to easily last us till May when I plant out what's left. But we're going through them relatively slowly. It's just my wife and I, and the girls maybe have taken a few home back to their houses, but mostly it's just my wife and I eating the carrots and the potatoes, so still lots left. All right, actually this is where where I took the picture for the thumbnail for this section when I had completed it. Doesn't look any different. We've got an empty crate on the floor here. Potatoes still, they're down to one layer here. Actually, I'm going to put that down for a second. Let's see what it measures, or what it registers by the time I'm done talking here. Potatoes, like I said, mostly pretty much one layer here of potatoes on this level. And I've been going through them. I just picked out a few potatoes that were going moldy right now, but it's been pretty good. Like, I got maybe half a dozen of them that were going moldy. And that's what you really have to do with all stored vegetables. Just keep checking on them and removing ones that are bad, because as they say, one bad apple spoils the bushel or the bunch, whatever that saying is. It's true. If I let something rot here on the shelf, it actually starts spreading mold and rot to the other potatoes. So this section, there's that vent going into the other room. The one light, I have one light switch on the outside of that door that turns on both of these lights, this one and the one on that side. And the same switch is a double switch, so that turns on the fan separately. So this section will always be, I think, potatoes. I got carrots underneath and some pails on the floor there too. But I think probably always just going to be potatoes, I think, on this level, because I noticed that when I left the carrots out, they actually started sprouting. Like, the green started coming back on top, the carrot tops. So I do need to keep them in the pails and full of sand right to the top so that they don't sprout and they don't get any light, I guess. So I'm happy with this section. I'm happy with how much it stores. Could actually get more up here. And I do have a crate actually of sweet potatoes there, and I better check those to make sure they're not starting to go bad. Let's go upstairs and we'll talk for a few minutes, and I'll come back down and show you the rest of the cellar. Have a sponsor on this video, and to me it's kind of relevant with what's going on with me and the channel and what I'm doing here. It's self-reliance work. Anyway, let's go back up. Alright, I'm going to take a little break, I think, anyway, have some lunch. So the cellar is finally done, like I mentioned. So those two sections I showed you, they were the section with the potatoes was the first section I actually completely finished. And that other section I just finished today. I just finished the ceiling, actually. So the reason I want to talk to you quickly is, first of all, this video was sponsored by Delete Me. Recently, I had an issue at the old cabin, as you know, privacy issue, which caused me to actually sell that property and move. And even during that selling of that property, that process, people were searching online and finding that, and then they were disclosing it online on their own channels and their own social media platforms where that was and how much I was selling it for and all that kind of stuff. So rather than leave social media completely, I've decided just to use a couple of apps and services in order to protect my privacy as much as possible. What Delete Me is a service that deletes your information, private information, from anywhere you want online. All they do is search for your personal information that's being sold online and that's been collected by data brokers. They just assemble all of your information and then create a profile on you. So they might find your birthday over here, like from Facebook. Let's say you put your date of birth on Facebook. They grab that. They might grab your relatives' names from that section. They might get your social insurance number from somewhere else. So how it works is you just log into their site. You give them you fill out a questionnaire. You give them all the information that you want them searching for you. And then within 7 days, they sent me a report showing all of the data brokers that they had searched to see if my information was there, and they found 2 that did have my information. So they had notified those companies to delete it immediately and stop selling that information. They'll continue to do searches then to make sure those data brokers didn't put my name back on the list. And then I'll continue to get a report every couple of months, and they'll continue to do that work. But it's continually changing, so this company, because it's their or their only focus, they're going to continue to innovate to stay on top of the new innovations by those data brokers. And because it is their only focus, they actually do the work themselves. They're not sending it out to subcontractors somewhere, overseas to do it cheaper. So Delete Me is offering my viewers a special offer this month. Click on the link in the description below and enter Reliance to receive 20% off consumer plans. Anyway, I'm going to have a little bit of lunch, and then we'll go downstairs and I'll show you the rest of the cellar. And I'm going to just flash back and show you how the cellar was built, because it's, well, it's unique, being a wood foundation for this cabin and a wood cellar. There's things that I had to do to make sure that it's going to last, and I needed to make sure that it was insulated from, the cold weather that we get. It'll get down to minus 30 Celsius or minus 30 something Celsius, which is the same Fahrenheit basically. It'll get down to that at some point this winter. That's typical, and we get hot weather in the 30s Celsius. So what's that, in the 80s? We get most of the summer with a lot of humidity. So it's important that I keep the cellar at a constant temperature by having it well insulated. And the problem is with a wood foundation is you kind of should only go 4 feet underground with it. So there's not all this. It's different here because it's mostly sand, but you don't want pressure pushing in those walls if you were like 6 or 8 feet or 9 feet down below the ground level. So I went 4 feet down, especially because I was digging it by hand. That helped by only going 4 feet and then coming 2.5 feet out of the ground, which is why the cabin's sitting up so high. But because I did that, I needed extra insulation because there's that much wall exposed to the air on the outside. So it doesn't have earth banked up against it, in other words. Plus, we get our frost line is 42 inches building code. That's what we have to put footings at, foundation depth at least 42 inches to get it below the frost line so you don't get heaving. Again, it's not an issue here for me because this is sand, and I could literally dig that sand right in the middle of the winter because it just the water percolates through so quickly. It doesn't collect and then freeze and then heave. But anyway, those were some of the challenges that I faced. So you can see here how I addressed that. The interior walls, I did 2 things. Some of the sections have vapor barrier and some don't. And then I have wood walls installed, which of course have the gaps. I'm going to monitor that and see which walls perform the best. I have a feeling that because I have a vapor barrier essentially on the outside, a full water barrier, that blue skin, that I needed to not have vapor barrier on the inside because the wood 2x6s probably weren't fully dry, and I didn't want to trap that moisture in there. So I'm not sure how all of that's going to work. I'm going to, like I said, have to take boards off each wall, take a look at the insulation, whether there was vapor barrier there or not, and see if I have any moisture building up and any mold issues. So constant just monitoring. It's just one of the challenges because of the way I'm constructing things, not using conventional building methods or modern ones anyway. I'll finish my lunch, then we'll go back down and take a look at the other 2 sections. There are 3 sections down there. So this is it. This is the finished cellar. As finished as I plan on making it anytime soon, at least. I don't see any changes that I'm going to end up making, but the only thing that might impact what I do down here is that I think, what, more electrical or plumbing? This water tank right here, it's a 1,000-liter tank. It's not full yet. I've been using just what are they, 20-gallon tanks, 20-gallon water things that I fill up in the spring over there. But eventually this will be used for collecting rainwater off the, especially off the, well, it might be off this roof too, the cabin roof, but especially off the kitchen, outdoor kitchen roof. Nice straight run and easy to run the trough down into here. But I think what I'll do is have 2 of these outside collecting water, and then I'll pump that water down into here so I don't ever have a risk of overflow. So I can just control it. So if I'm pumping from there to here, I'll just pump out 1 tank basically to fill it. So this line right here goes up to the kitchen, which is just that manual pump, little hand pump to get the water up there. I'll need to put run another one over to the bathroom. I think under the sink I might just use those 5-gallon water totes, I think. So that would be under the sink, but the shower itself I will plumb into here. The only reason I haven't done it yet is that I think I'm also going to end up running, well, right now what we do is we just fill up a 5-gallon pail full of hot water, and we have that shower that just like a little pump that drops down into the pail with a hose and then a shower head. You would have seen us use it in the sauna at the old cabin maybe 3 years ago. So that's fine, but it's not enough water really to, you certainly couldn't have a bath, and it'd be nice to have longer showers. So by having a water line plumbed directly into here, and then have a propane heater that provides water pressure and hot water on demand. That's, I think, the ultimate plan until I get a bathhouse or sauna done, especially, and at that point we'll probably just use that mainly. This is the AC and DC, so alternating current, which is your standard plugs, and then the direct current distribution panel. The direct current currently is just running the freezer, which is a big freezer, but that's the only way you can run that freezer. So that's direct current, but I've mentioned a few times I'll just do some circulation fans, some small computer fans. I think I'll run those off of DC as well. So I might punch a couple holes in there to run wires through, which is the reason I'm leaving this section of the roof or the ceiling unfinished, so I can access all the wiring. So if I bring some DC wiring and punch it through on there, I can just put a fan up inside just to circulate the air in there. This section here, I've got the window, so I can just open the window for ventilation. I've got to be careful, obviously, what the outdoor temperature is, so I don't freeze this section. That section in there is staying exactly at 6 degrees Celsius so far this year. I think maybe it's going to drop down a degree or 2 when it gets really cold outside, but we'll see. That's sealed pretty good. That vent down there is probably about the same volume, square footage, square inches of air flow that fan outputs out the back corner of that section. So when that's on, it's basically going to draw air from there and out. And then I've got a vent right there in that door. But mainly what's going to happen, I think, is I'd crack that window occasionally, run that fan, and have fresh air being drawn, and colder air if I want to make that a little bit colder. Cold air drawing through and up and out. What I'm discovering is that the squash does not like any of the temperatures down here, so I'm going to end up moving them upstairs. Last year I had them on the main floor of the cabin all year long and all through the summer or all through the winter, and they were fine. Like, they actually prefer the heat, so I'm going to move those up as they get a little bit of mold on them, basically cooking them up at that point. So the walls are insulated all the way around, and then the ceiling in those 2 sections are insulated as well. I have R20 in the walls, and most of it's the ground level's about here. So from there down, I have the soil banked up, but our frost can drive all the way basically from there down to there. So you get enough cold that you need that insulation all the way down to the footings. So from there up is exposed to the outside. So what I have is R20 inside the wall, so between the full 2-inch or 6-inch studs that I built the walls with. And then on the outside of that, I have 2 inches of high density foam. So I think that's another R12, so it's R32. And then I put 8 inches of insulation in the ceiling on that side. The floor, as you see, that section's just sand. That section's just sand. If I need to add humidity, I can put water on that floor. Back section, I just end up putting my tools in there for now. This section here, I laid just a loose laid plank floor on top of a vapor barrier, and it's fine. It didn't. It only lost me an inch of head space because, as you can see, it's pretty low in here. This is a table I made 25 years ago, at least. Yeah, probably 25 years ago, an oak table. I've tried it in various places. I had it up in the hallway, but it's too narrow. And then I put it outside in the outdoor kitchen, but close to the outside wall, and snow blows in on it, so it's not safe there. So I'm keeping it in here. Just a little drawer in it, and I've got boots and stuff on it. Like I mentioned before, that's the switch for the light, switch for the fan. Shelves with enough pails basically for 2 people. So 40 pails, 5-gallon pails of mainly grains. So it's quinoa, rice, oats, red hard wheat, and soft wheat. So that 20 pails is basically 1,000,000 calories. So that's enough for one person. And then we have all of our freeze-dried meals in these, which obviously takes up far less room when you take all the water out of it. So there is I have an inventory written down somewhere, and I know what we have, and there's a lot of meals in here. I think it's enough for half a year or something. So vegetables, fruit, label came off of that. That's probably meals, freeze-dried breakfast, and freeze-dried meals. So like chili and pasta, soups and things like that. So this room here is basically like long-term prepper type survival food for the future. So this all has oxygen absorbers in it too. So there's a couple that we have open, but that's why I switched to the 2.5-gallon pills, so that we can kind of cycle through those and leave the 5-gallon pills unopened, because it's such a large quantity, 50,000 calories per pail, that once you open that, you need to consume it or you repackage it. In there I've got the potatoes. There's 500 pounds of potatoes this year. It's probably only 300 left, I would say. And carrots, I think there's 16 pails of carrots in there, and then maybe one of beets, and that might be it for root vegetables. So tons of calories in there as well. I think, was it 400,000 calories in vegetables? Not sure. So this section here is the canned stuff. We don't eat tons of preserved stuff this way. That's why you'll see what's on the shelves here. But there's a lot of freeze-dried jars in here as well. Now when they go into a jar, they're exposed to sunlight or light and possible oxidation. So these are for shorter term consumption. So there's a bunch of zucchinis. Those are actually still from last year, so we need to start eating those from 2022. Dehydrated chunks and shredded zucchini, which is a great way to use it up. It's not awesome for texture when you reconstitute it, but it's perfect in like our breakfast frittata, which we have every morning, which is just fried eggs with eggs like a scramble with mostly these kind of vegetables in it, and always some kind of meat. Like this year, right now, it's moose and pork sausage that I made. 80-20 or deer. Was it deer? I think it was deer. So the freezer is full. That is, I put it in the description below the size of it. That's a 18 or 22 cubic foot freezer. So it holds a lot, and because it's a chest freezer, like that's full from top to bottom, and that's where what's left of the bear. There's a little bit of wild turkey in there. There's a couple of grouse, There's the 3/4 of the moose and most of the 3 deer. So that freezer, and a little bit of pork and a little bit of the lamb for my sister for Cali. So Cali's eating out of that freezer too. Canned meat, sauerkraut, and some kimchi in the crock pot there that's fermenting. That is something we eat literally every single day. We have fermented food of some sort. Fermented, it's fermented dairy products as well, but fermented cabbage typically every day as well. Got some raw milk, freeze dried. All the teas like mint, some other herbs and stuff, sage. 1 jar, was it 2 dozen? Yeah, 1 little jar this big. What's it say? 1 dozen. So that little jar is 1 dozen freeze-dried eggs. Nice color on it. So that little bit of water, you just mix it up with, for 4 eggs is what we have each day. So 1/3 of that goes into a little bit of water. Mix that up. Throw some dehydrated peppers, some zucchini, some onion, or dehydrated or freeze-dried leek, some kind of meat, and then maybe some of the cheese that my wife makes. So that's the frittata every morning. And hot peppers. I think I mentioned that. Sweet and hot peppers. It's a bunch of maple syrup from the spring. Still tons of that left. We don't go through it. Each year we end up with excess, so it starts to accumulate. And then maple sugar is up here on this shelf. Pickles. Fermented Jerusalem artichokes, dried beans. You saw tons of beans coming out of the garden that we've been shelling. These squash, again, I think I'm going to move those up to the next level. That switch in the hallway up here in the breezeway turns this light above me on and this one here. I didn't bother running a light to the corner because when you get back there and open the freezer, the light in the freezer comes on. But I could run another light easily enough. I'll probably put shelves or a shelf above that freezer when the door opens. Figure out that height, put something there just to store probably cans as well. This will get full next year for sure. The lights on that shelf, by the way, are for seed starting, and I'm considering whether I can do that in the cellar here. It's probably too cold, but I might be able to put it in the back corner, put another door on between those 2 sections back there, and actually put a heater in there, even if it's a little propane heater with the vent, so I can turn the fan on and keep the fumes from accumulating in there. But I also might be able to just do heating pads underneath each of the trays. I don't know, we'll see. If not, then I'll just use it. I don't know. I'd rather build wood shelves here and use that for my wife and I set it up for, all these lights and little fans for blowing air through it. So maybe we'll end up using it for starting seeds after, like mid-season seed starting. So after our last frost, mid-May, and put this maybe outside in the outdoor kitchen and start all the seeds on it out there. And my gun cabinet. That's pretty much it. That's the cellar. I need to get this place cleaned up again, organized a little bit better for 4 people. So yeah, Aaron and Emily and my wife will be up first thing, I hope first thing on Saturday, so we can go out and show, especially Aaron. I don't think she's been here yet. So, and Emily hasn't been here for a while. So we can go for a walk, show them around the property, especially with the new trails. Do some snowshoeing maybe, although we didn't end up getting as much snow as I thought we were going to get. So it's actually warm and kind of melting down, so you don't even need snowshoes yet. which is nice. I don't know. Still might take the snowmobile out though and get a trail started. Start packing it down. Anyway, that's the next video after this one. So hopefully on Christmas I'll be able to release that video. And then, like I said, oh, I know what I wanted to do. So maybe tomorrow I'll try to get that bathroom, at least the toilet, plumbed and set up. I have a beautiful slab of walnut that I'm making the countertop in the bathroom, the vanity for the sink. Make that out of, so I can get that maybe. I don't think I'll get it done before they get here, but that's the next project anyway, is to finish off that bathroom completely before Christmas. So I've got about a week to finish that up, and anything else I want done before New Year's. And that'll be the next video. That'll be the video probably of Christmas week or the following week, probably just before New Year's, I guess. Yeah, and then winter settles in, so a little bit of outdoor work to do and a bunch of other stuff coming up. Anyway, that is it. I hope you learned something from the Cellar, the root cellar tour, and you were able to not to get too frustrated seeing the repeat content as I flash back showing you how I built it. But I do that on almost every project, do a summary project or summary video at the end of it. So well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you back here at the cabin next time. Take care.